want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe. I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, off and running, another week underway, holiday weekend in the books, and here we go, kicking it off, the month of July, full week here, and we're back on the air, back with the Sports Fix. Hopefully you guys are back with us. I know probably back at work too, as you wish you could take this out a little bit longer, make that the 4 or 5 day weekend maybe, but many of you, like myself here, back at work today, and we're back at it, doing the Sports Fix thing. We're going to have some fun. Dan Wismar is going to join us. I'll crack open the phone lines here in a little bit. So, I don't know. No further ado. Let's get rocking and rolling. Welcome in, you guys, to the Sports Fix. I'm your host, the Big Daddy, here on the microphone. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, whichever one you choose. Call me. Happy to have you guys here each and every day when we do the thing at noon across the Sports Fix radio network. Maybe you're listening live on TuneIn, TuneIn's radio app worldwide, Spreaker, Mixler, their digital and mobile apps. Perhaps you're on our website, the home base, thesportsfix.net. However you're getting it live, thank you so much for doing it as well. Each and every one of you guys, welcome in, who listen at various times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on digital delay, on sites like iHeartRadio, iTunes, all sorts of different places that you guys download, feed, subscribe the show, Stitcher Radio, CarPlay, wherever you do it, however you do it, whatever time you do it. Thank you guys so much for getting your fix each and every day here. And as I say, that's not just a catchphrase. Do it. Be a part of the show. Today's a great day. I'm going to be able to take some time here in the early segment of the show. I'll crack open the phones and the social media as we do each and every day. You guys, be the voice of the Sports Fix. Pick up your phone. Give me a call, 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Or hit us up on social media, Facebook and Twitter and emails, and Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us here 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE. Email thesportsfix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/the Sports Fix. Twitter at the Sports Fix CLE. Email us the Sports Fix at AOL.com. And so many different ways to interact with the show. Make sure you guys do that. I mean, so many different ways we could go here to start off the show. A lot of different things to get into. It was a holiday weekend, by the way. Hopefully you guys back here, safe, sound, in one piece, and had a good time this weekend as we celebrated America, baby, and Independence Weekend, all of that. It was I had a good time. Some great weather here, hopefully where you guys were. Same thing going on. There was some great baseball over the weekend, all kinds of great things. Hey, you know what? Kind of fitting that on the and I know it doesn't get anywhere near the publicity that many other things get. Not only is it buried over in a flood of other things, but at the end of the day, the U.S. women winning the World Cup there on Independence Weekend. Pretty cool tie-in there. And USA chants all over the place. Hacksaw Jim Duggan would have been proud of this weekend. All kinds of good stuff. Hopefully you guys had some fun, safe fireworks displays all over the place. Like I said, it was really beautiful weather here in Northeast Ohio as well. Parts of the weekend in Pittsburgh for the Indians. I know Friday night they had the rain delay there. It was really, really coming down. They let those guys keep playing in that stuff. I was watching it, and I'm like, man, that's pushing the limits there. Then they pushed it off, and then they were able to get back and get at it. But what did you guys get into this weekend? Hopefully, had a lot of fun. That's this one of the fun weekends here. Summer really gets rolling. Now you hit the month of July. Baseball's got itself center stage for a little bit longer here before football. By the way, speaking of baseball, Indians officially now today begin the numerical second half of the season. They finished the first 81 games, 5 games under 500. So it could have been and looked like it would have been a lot worse at one point. That being said, now you start digging out of the hole. And I was telling somebody, and we'll get into the Tribe here in a minute. We'll talk about the series over the weekend here with the Pirates. But I was telling somebody before the show when we went on the air, I've been saying this for a couple of days now. I really do. I know that there's still some things that the Indians can do to improve their roster perhaps, and we'll talk about all of those different variations to come out. But, when those dog days of August start to roll in and the season gets 3/4 of the way in here, bats get heavy. Some guys start to fatigue and wear down, and I believe that the Indians' pitching staff is just going to really take it to another level at that point in the season. Now, that does not mean I'm not waving the magic wand. I'm not doing all that. But I'm just saying I believe that the Indians are in a position where they can be one of the better second-half teams here. And I'm kind of looking forward to it, man, as we sit here, get ready with Houston. They come back home, and it's been a minute here, and hopefully they can get – and this is going to be a good test, too, this homestand here, as I'm sure Dan and I will get into talking about a little bit. But you played a week of good games against good teams. Yeah, I know you had a bad inning that undid it, and I've still got a bad taste in my mouth from yesterday's game, of course. But overall, some great, especially the first two, some great baseball play. Man, that was a tough one to lose on Saturday as well, but there was a heck of a game there. But still, good baseball. That's a hell of a Pirates team over there. Same thing with coming out of that 4-game sweep with the Rays, which was a great performance too. And I know they're trending down a little bit there, but you got the top wild card team in each conference there, in each league, the American League and the National League, and the Indians, I think, showed a little bit, and you can see that they are, as Mike said the other day, they're playing their best baseball thus far of the season, but they've still got to play even better baseball than that. And that's why, looking ahead to this homestand here, I'm kind of looking at this not as a big, like a big litmus test, but you're back home, and as we know, they've been struggling at home, and you've got the Astros, which is where the season started too, and here now you come back around and measure that, and then you've got the A's there on the back end of this. And I think it's a good chance for the Indians and for us to kind of look at where they're at here, see where the Tribe is going to be. Of course, we'll talk more about all of this in a little bit, but a couple of promotional nights coming up here. My mind got sidetracked there for a second. Got the Sandy Alomar jersey on this one here. You got a fireworks night thrown in. Got Carlos Santana bobblehead night, which will anger some people as well as it'll make other people happy. But they've got a lot of things going on with this homestand. But they've got it. Hey, more important than that, as so many of you guys tell me all the time in the emails, in the tweets, in the phone calls, is the hell with bobbleheads and all of that stuff. Win some games, especially at home. That's going to be the key here, man. So we'll get into looking and talking about all of that, but I'm feeling good in general about the way the Indians are playing baseball heading back into it. We'll see what they look like here, and then you've got the All-Star break coming up there. But this is the official halfway point of the season. 81 down, 81 to go left in this bad boy for the Indians. Where are you guys at with it? Still a whole lot of baseball left to go, and I know, hey, some of you guys were in Pittsburgh this weekend, man. A lot of Indians fans in Pittsburgh. Matter of fact, Friday night, that was all that was left after the rain delay, was the Indians fans that said, man, hell, I drove all the way up here or flew or whatever it was that you did, and I'm going to watch the rest of this game no matter what. I want to hear from you guys, too, if you were up there this weekend. Pick up the phone. Give me a call, 216-539-7535, 216 539-7535 is the number to call, you guys. I want to hear from you as well as we talk about the Indians and the Pirates and, of course, the Cavaliers. Cavaliers as well in the headlines here throughout the weekend. And I'm not even going to – I'll wait for Dan to even bandy around our usual tossing around of the ridiculousness. You guys continuing to watch these. Are you watching them? I know you are, because I am too. Just trying to drag people around by the nose. You would think that so many of these insiders and media people would have been bit when they went heavy-handed on their Kevin Love and Shumpert and all of that, and then 5 minutes later the Cavaliers smacked them down. I'll tell you, I'm already hearing that a lot of progress made on wrapping things up just in the last little bit here with Tristan Thompson. Don't be surprised if you don't hear something sooner rather than later on that. You're already hearing the bad narratives, though. One that I saw, and I'm not going to go crazy on this, but one that I saw was great, was LeBron James not talking to anybody, not going to help the Cavaliers recruit anybody till they take care of Tristan. He's hands off now, just like he wasn't going to recruit Kevin Love until he flew to Los Angeles and met with Kevin Love, and was the main reason that Kevin Love decided to not even go out looking around in free agency, while the reports were out there that he was heading to LA to go visit with the Lakers. Anyways, but LeBron, remember, he wasn't going to recruit Kevin Love until he recruited Kevin Love. So now they switch it again, and you would think, I mean, I'll tell you, and they're coming both barrels at the Cavaliers now, because a lot of people made to look foolish in the first few days of free agency here, and you can just see it coming out now. I get a kick out of it because by this point, it's just a game. You can make a drinking game out of it, actually, if you wanted to have some holiday weekend fun over this past weekend. Just make the Brian Windhorst, Chris Broussard, Mark Stein, all of them, their sources are not very good. That's all I'm going to say. But anyways, and you saw more of that beginning to come out here this weekend, as now all of a sudden the line has been drawn in the sand, and King LeBron will not even think about coming back to the Cavs until they give every single penny that Tristan Thompson wants. He's going to hold him hostage, and then they're going after every free. And by the way, too, they're going after every free agent out there. You know what? Here's another one. And now listen, I'll just touch on this a little bit. The latest story coming out around the Cavaliers this weekend: Joe Johnson, Brooklyn Nets. Yes, he of the $25 million salary. He's the second highest paid player behind Kobe Bryant coming up this NBA season. But the talk of perhaps the Cavs looking, because they are trying to continue to move that Haywood contract, that $10.5 million expiring chip there. And so now talk maybe centers on that. And I'll tell you what, I had lots of conversations with people about this. Oh, man, what do you think? They're going to trade Andy. Look, they're going to trade. Here's where people got that, because the story that's out there now, and this is, again, when I say use the, think back to the old English classes you took in school, and those words that transition certain segments of a sentence together, read them, because the smallest words in a sentence sometimes carry the biggest weight when you read these articles. And what I'm talking about is the fact that it's now been repeated ad nauseum that the Cavaliers are attempting to trade Haywood and Anderson Varejao for Joe Johnson. And the reason that comes about is because if you want to do simple, quick, lazy reporting, it didn't come from any source. It came from the fact that you looked at the Cavs roster, and that was the easiest math to add up, was that $10 million Varejao contract coming up. Now, I'm not saying, again, that this isn't something that the Cavaliers would entertain, although I feel, for many reasons that we've discussed before, the Cavaliers, I don't see them necessarily being big in a market to move Anderson Varejao. Their commitment to him appears to be pretty solid, and vice versa. And that doesn't mean you don't try to improve your team. I'm not saying that, but many people have now turned that story into a reported fact, when in all reality, the initial story, and I've gone and I've really tried to flesh this thing out over the last few hours here to make sure that I was right about this, and I am. Nowhere was that ever stated as coming from a fact, from a source, from an agent, from a team, from anything like that. It was simply an initial line of speculation that one of the contracts the Cavs may attempt to include in this, because remember, they've got a match within, I believe it's 30%, and we're talking about a $25 million contract. So even if you move Haywood's 10.5. You're still going to need another $9.5, $10 million going out from Cleveland to the Nets for that trade to be allowed by the NBA. So again, that's where that came, and the speculation started there. And that's something to talk. And something else to talk about is, do you want Joe Johnson on this team? And that's, the money is what it is, because either way, it's a 1-year deal, and you would be trading out nearly the same amount that you're bringing in anyway. So it's just more money that the Cavs Dan will be paying tax on as far as that goes. And it's a 1-year thing, and then it's a one and done. But to me, he plays better defense, I guess, than J.R. Smith. But boy, that's a high price to upgrade that position there. I think you may be able to do something else with that Haywood contract, but that's something that's out there now. What do you think? Do you have interest in Joe Johnson coming to the Cavaliers there? And then the other permutation to this is David West, and the fact that he isn't a free agent that has said there's a handful of contenders that he would like to play for, and that they're the teams said to be jockeying for him. The Wizards was one, the Cavaliers, the Spurs was a team. Oh, and by the way, talk about the Spurs picking up LaMarcus Aldridge. I'll get into that in a minute, but David West, and that's something that instantly there was word that the Cavaliers had some interest there, and there may have been some mutual interest. And of course, if you're looking to play for a contender, the Cavs would be right at the top of your list, but the Cavs extremely deep at the big man position, especially with the commitments to Kevin Love and what's coming to Tristan Thompson and Verajao, and the re-up with Mozgov, and the fact that you're going to carry most of these guys for several years going forward. You're pretty stocked at the big position to go after a David West. That's a real luxury signing at that point in time. Plus, would he be willing to take that reduction of a spot? So then that's where some of the speculation, and this is where you can start trying to play fantasy general manager, I guess, is that you can see if you were to package Anderson Varejao in a trade out to bring in a guard such as Joe Johnson, then you would open up the need for a quality third, fourth, however you want to quantify it, big man there to be a part of that grouping or rotation, and that perhaps is where David West would come in there. So that's something perhaps to play into that. But there's a whole lot of speculation, and of course, don't forget that was where they jumped in with, and of course, LeBron will not be recruiting David West to come and play for the Cavs, because he's a free agent too. He was a free agent last week when he went to LA and he recruited Kevin Love. I'm just gonna randomly throw that one out there again. But what are your thoughts on some of these? I mean, there's really a whole lot of different things thrown out there. And I remind you, too, that many of these same people told you that Kevin Love was absolutely not coming back to Cleveland. Dwayne Wade was going to be in a Cavaliers uniform. Remember, he was seen here talking to the Cavaliers right around the time that he headed out on a vacation with LeBron and family. But, many things that have been said to transpire have not exactly transpired thus far. So, as Jonathan Knight refers to it, the silly season, this is truly it. And it's definitely in full effect there. And you'll continue to see more of that. And it's silly, too, when you look at the amounts, the dollar amounts, the money that's out there that some of these guys are getting. And some of them, hey, I'm not saying guys don't deserve whatever. No, that's a different argument for a different day. But man, some of the paydays that some of these guys are getting are just unfathomable out there. Hats off to them if they can go out there and get it. But man, I mean, and I'm not saying these guys can't ball, but Reggie Jackson, 5 years, $80 million. I mean, I'll tell you what, Lou Williams to the Lakers, that may be one of the better signings the Lakers have made in a while, just because that'll infuse a little bit of youth there. But you see, Stuckey, 3 years, $21 million. And again, that's average in today's NBA. I know I'm just sounding like the old fuddy-duddy talking about the money they make, but I mean, Dragic, $90 million. I mean, whatever. It's today's economics, and this is going to look like silly season for sure, like Play-Doh money here coming up in 2 years when they jump up that salary cap again. But you just look at that, and then you look at the big ones, the ones that are worth. And this is what I mean, $80 million for Reggie Jackson. Hey, that's a good young guard there, good potential there in in what you can get, but that same $80 million buys you LaMarcus Aldridge. I mean, I was telling somebody yesterday, and I say this all the time, why do we even designate it a max contract? Because everybody gets it. Everybody's getting it. Like, what's the point now? I mean, just, there's no designation. Like, what does a LeBron, what does a top player, Blake Griffin, whoever you want to say, where do you separate the top five? Because the minute you make a new max contract, do you make a super max? Do you make a max contract that you can only get if you're in the top five in a certain category? And even then it becomes I don't know. And then all of a sudden people's money become even more tied to their stats, which means you create even more of a me first atmosphere than you've already got. So I guess maybe I'm making things worse there instead of making them better. But you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden now the max contract has just become what everybody gets. So how does the top guy, the top guy will never get what he truly deserves. The top ones, for what they bring in, ticket sales and merchandise sales and all of that to the league. But what is a max contract now if everybody gets a max contract? That's all I'm saying. But going back to one that does deserve it, how about let's hit LaMarcus Aldridge, because I was talking about that last week. I said, my gut said from day one, he wasn't going to the Lakers. He was going home to Texas. He was going to the Spurs. And man, that really sets the Spurs up there for an interesting run for the next couple of seasons, because Tim Duncan's coming back. I think Manu Ginobili is going to end up coming back for another season because of this. So they're bringing the band back, and they're adding a piece that'll slowly transition into being the piece there as whatever happens in the next year or so with Tim Duncan, whenever he decides that he's done. But man, they've kind of done it again there. That really shifts things out west, man. I'll tell you, for all the people that talked about the Warriors, they may be one and done as far as even getting out of the West, because you had a 1-2 Texas punch there. Not only you get the Spurs, they get LaMarcus Aldridge, taking that big piece off the puzzle, man, and really changing things there. But then Dallas, they go out there and they completely flip the script as well. And I'll tell you, Dallas and the Spurs are going to be very interesting. Dallas, of course, grabbing DeAndre Jordan, who now weakens the Clippers most definitely. And you know what? It was very interesting. I cannot remember who I read it, and I say that all the time. I hate when I can't source an article and tell you guys who it was, but I read some interesting stuff about how DeAndre Jordan, and it spoke to the fragile nature of egos and the NBA and athletes and all of that, how in the short matter of a couple of months, things changed to where DeAndre Jordan just ended up walking out the door there, and obviously happy with what he heard with the Dallas Mavericks, going down there for a max contract. But there's that word again, max contract. But it was just interesting, the slights that came, perceived and otherwise, from the front office itself to the Clippers, and then through little things that, just like I said, from a few months ago when he had a couple of bigger offensive games. He wanted to be a bigger part of the offense there, wanted to expand himself, and felt that too, that and I think many people can relate to this, especially if he started out being known as kind of I don't want to say a troublemaker, but he had some attitude issue. Like the red card was flagged on his folder when he came into the league, and he's done a lot of growing of his game and of himself since then, and talked about how he did not feel that was being recognized. Like, they were still treating him like the same person that he was when he first got there, which I can totally appreciate that there. But then as well, just the mishandling. This is why we joke about teams picking up the phone at midnight and calling a guy. And if you call if the team doesn't call until the next morning, you may have lost a guy because that ego stroke, and that was one of them. Other teams are lining up, throwing themselves at DeAndre Jordan and say, hey, we'd like to sit down and tell you how we would do things with you coming here. And the Clippers are bumbling around on setting a meeting with the guy. And I mean, just little things. Like I said, slights, whether they're real or perceived, they grow into a big chasm so quickly. And next thing you know, DeAndre Jordan talked himself right out of L.A. and right into the Dallas Mavericks there. And so that's why, until the pen's to the paper, these guys are able to go out here and sell any story they want, whether it's right now, I'm sure somebody somewhere is telling a story that there's secret phone calls going on to LeBron James somewhere, and until the pen is to the paper, you'll never be able to dispute that either way. So, but that's it was a really interesting tale about how that relationship evolved just in the last few months through the playoff run there. And even though DeAndre Jordan, good friends, very good. He says he's one of his best friends in the NBA, Blake Griffin, and that was one of the things that kept him there. But there was a lot of friction with him and Chris Paul, and that too speaks to where chemistry is. A lot of stories of just freezing out as far as it was very interesting. Slights as far as who Chris Paul would give high fives to as they're coming off the court, and things that you would think should not matter, but they do, and those all add up, and that's how a team ends up losing something, and that shifts the balance. I was saying I could see the next 2 seasons, I could see the Spurs right off the bat, because I believe Tim Duncan's going to have one more strong run in him. You've got LaMarcus Aldridge added there, a last run for the original group before you splinter off and some guys start to leave. But 2 years from now, I can see Dallas perhaps putting together the run that comes out of the West. I think that may be your next 2 Western Conference champions. Of course, lots of things can change between now and then, but it may take a season for the Mavericks to learn how to retool things there, building more offensively around DeAndre Jordan, and then mixing in Dirk and changing things up. I mean, they've made several changes there. Ellis is out, Rondo out, went to the Kings. So I think it may take a season of adjustment there for the Mavericks, but they may be the team to jump in and take advantage of the slight drop down that's going to come when the Spurs shift from Duncan's team to Aldridge's team 2 years from now. So those are some big signings that are definitely going to change things out west. And just, hey, the good thing for the Cavs is they've only got to deal with one of them, whether it's the Warriors, whether it's the Spurs, no matter who it is. The Rockets, they're taking care of their business. The Rockets may be in trouble. This has nothing to do with basketball, by the way, but I cannot believe James Harden. I thought James Harden was a smart man, but I heard he's messing around with one of them Kardashians. If that's the case, the Rockets are fans. Y'all should be worried right now, because you are in all kinds of trouble if that is the case, man, because those women do nothing but ruin anything and anybody that comes within arm's length. Just look at the list. Just look at Lamar. Just look. That's all I'm saying, man. He had just come off of an NBA championship team, man, and look at him now, man. Look at him. That's all I'm saying. I cannot believe. I thought James Harden was smarter than that, man. But anyways, the Rockets fans should be panicked everywhere, even if they did relock up their own guys. Beverly, Brewer, a couple of young guys there, key for them. But as you watch things change, obviously the big ones there coming off with LaMarcus Aldridge and DeAndre Jordan and shifting some things around. So just like that, the landscape changes out west. And I think that the Warriors, you had a fortuitous run here this season, but I think they're going to fight for their lives just to even have a chance to get out of the West for the next few years, because I think that the game has changed out there. And it'll be interesting to see here, too, with the Cavs. And, again, I want to talk to you guys. What are your thoughts on all of these things we hear, whether it's the Joe Johnson thing, what's going on with Tristan Thompson, all of that. Bruce, you're wrong in the chat room, my man. You are wrong over there, man. Nobody deserves a Kardashian in their life. I don't care what you think of the person, man. Come on. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. That's all I'm saying. But hey, guys, you know what? Let's take a break here. It's a good time for that, and let's get some news, and let's get my man Dan Wismar in on this conversation. We'll talk about the latest silliness going on around the NBA free agency, the real and the not so real, what he thinks about perhaps Joe Johnson, Andy Varejao, David West, different combinations of that. The Indians, great weekend. We really just began to talk about that here this weekend. It was a beautiful weekend after the rains left in Pittsburgh, and some good baseball, and then, man, one bad inning of ugly baseball that did you. And I mean, really, come on, man. I mean, Salazar. Well, we'll get into it, you guys. But let's talk about it, because how do you feel? Indians coming home. You've got Houston here. Do you feel better about the Tribe than you did a week ago? A month ago? You should. But does that mean? Who knows? Let's see what Dan thinks about it. We'll talk about the Indians, the homestand coming up. We'll look ahead, preview tonight's game, talk about Pittsburgh, the Cavs, the free agency, whatever Dan wants to talk. Who knows? Dan may just go in a totally different way. He may want to talk Women's World Cup, USA, baby. Like I said, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, beaming with pride. We are too. Let's take a break. When we come back after the news, Dan Wismar picks up the conversation with us. Coming up next, here on the Sports Fix.
You could lend a hand in return for grace. It's a beautiful day. Sky falls, you feel like it's a beautiful day. So let it get away on the road.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. It was like a Hollywood script. 35-year-old Abby Wambach could be the greatest female soccer player in U.S. history, and there was only one thing missing from her resume. And in her final World Cup, the Americans won the World Cup, blasting Japan 5-2 in the finals last night in Vancouver.
I feel like this is like what heaven is supposed to feel like. I'm a World Cup champion. It's weird to say. It's weird it's bizarre. It's just, this whole thing is bizarre, and I'm privileged and honored to be a part of it.
Carly Lloyd scored 3 goals all in the first 16 minutes when the U.S. jumped out to a 4-0 lead. It was the 26th time they met, and for the 6th time at a Grand Slam event, Serena Williams defeated older sister Venus in straight sets, winning today in the round of 16 at Wimbledon, 6-4, 6-3. Another fourth-round action, now live on ESPN and ESPN2. Second seed Maria Sharapova was a straight set winner, 6-4, 6-4. And in a first set tiebreak, third seeded Andy Murray trails Ivo Karlovic 2-4. Rory McIlroy disclosed today he ruptured the ligament in his left ankle while kicking around a soccer ball with friends. He'll almost certainly be ruled out of the British Open in 2 weeks at St. Andrews.
This summer, Buffalo Wild Wings is going global, giving you more to root for. More global flavors, more great drinks, and more can't-miss sports action. There's really no better place to be. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings. Beer. Sports.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you here, rolling on. Dan Wismar going to join me here in just a moment. From Everybody Hates Cleveland, the Cleveland fan, you guys can keep the conversation going with us 24/7. Facebook, Twitter, you know how to do it. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, The Sports Fix at AOL.com. And, you know, I don't know if heaven's exactly like winning a World Cup, but hey, I can dig the exuberance again. USA taking care of business, as you heard there in the news break. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk some cat. Well, I don't know how much we'll talk about it, but hey, I thought the timing was fortuitous when it happened, made the celebration that much better. We'll talk some Cavs, some Tribe, all those things that are up in the air from this weekend and more with Dan. You guys can talk with us, like I said, Facebook and Twitter, Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix at AOL.com. You can't call because that's where Dan Wismar currently resides. Dan, how you doing this Monday afternoon?
I'm doing great, Derek. Thanks for having me as usual.
Than's for
great
being
weekend
here.
yeah.
What'd you do? What'd you do this weekend, man? What was your holiday weekend like?
You know, a little bit of golfing on Friday, but Saturday and Sunday pretty much just hanging around the home. Did a little bit of yard work and stuff. It's always tough to keep up with that, but a lot of grilling, a lot of sunning, playing with the dog. Pretty much just sticking around home and enjoying the weather.
Yeah, same here. It was pretty good. As I said, it was a good weekend for baseball, too, except for Friday night when the rains opened up a little bit there, man. And I'm telling you, at one point I'm watching it, Trevor Bauer's looking like, really? We're still playing baseball? And you know how he can be just a bit touchy about things being just right. So I'm sure that he's sitting there probably going, man, come on, really? You got me pitching in this? But other than that, it cleared up, and it was a beautiful weekend there, too. And it was some good baseball, even though it ended. Really, was it not looking yesterday, not to jump straight through the weekend, like the Indians were rolling to taking this series and things were looking good, and then boom, next thing you know, that inning blows up and you see what happened. But up until that point, I was feeling really good about the weekend.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously the Pirates succeeded in cooling the Indians off a little bit, but you're right. It looked good yesterday for Salazar. He was cruising. He goes into the fourth inning and really pitched in some tough luck there in that fourth inning. That little chopper to the left of the mound, should have had him out of the inning with a 3-2 lead. Obviously, he gave up the home run, but really made a great pitch on an 0-2 count to, I guess it was Harrison, and kid just chops the ball over to the left of the mound, and they can't throw him out, and before they knew it, it's a 5-run inning, and the game's essentially over because Cole really settled in and put down about 15 or 16 in a row, if I recall. But yeah, the Indians played well. The bats went quiet, but Pirates have had great starting pitching for the last month, and they showed how they're doing that with great efforts from starters on Saturday and Sunday. Tribe got to Cole for 3 runs yesterday, but it was Obviously not enough, because once he settled in, he was mowing them down.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is that, and I mentioned that with Tampa, and then following that up with Pittsburgh, you had at the time that you started playing them, you had the wild card leader on both sides of the ledger there. So it was kind of a good little test of, hey, these are some good teams, especially the way they played coming out of Baltimore and the way they just looked lifeless and then really snapped up and woke up. We saw what they did with the sweep, and then here this weekend. And I'm not happy, obviously losing 2 out of 3 the way they did. But what a hell of a game on Saturday that just went that way. And this one here, again, you don't want to just blow past a 5-run inning. But, I mean, other than that, the story looked like it was playing out well. You put 3 runs on the board there early against Cole. You're thinking, okay, man, the Indians, this is looking pretty good there. So, again, I like where they're playing ball. Mike said the other day, likes them better than he did a month ago and a month before that. And if they can continue here, I really see the second half, man. I think that is where the pitching of the Indians will continue to be the rock that they can lie on as guys get heavy bats, start down, the dog days of the season. So, they finished the first 81 games yesterday, 5 games under 500, which where they started the season, that's not as bad as it could be. And I know that's not the best compliment to give them, but it is not as bad as it could have been and looked like it was going to be earlier on.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose if you got the glass half full, you can look at how much worse it could have been. I still think it comes down, Jerry, to getting it together at Progressive Field, and
yes.
No better time to start than this week. I mean, you've got a 7-game homestand now,
yep.
And you've got to say that 5 games back, 5 games under 500, 9 games out. You've got to start playing well at home. You've got to start winning games at home. Even so much as to say that if this homestand doesn't go well, then we're getting pretty close to halfway through July, and we've said that, if we're still sitting here at the end of July in a state similar to what we're in right now, then we've got to start looking to the future and beyond 2015. Obviously, a lot can happen in the last 2 months, but well, I don't know. At some point, you've got to pick it up on your home field, and you need to do that now, not later.
That's what I was kind of saying. I said, I'm not trying to do one of those old, hey, here comes the biggest homestand so far of the season deals, but this is a really good litmus test because you feel like they're playing some good baseball. So it's not like they're hitting it at a bad time or where everybody's stumbling and scuffling or whatever. So you feel like they're playing some good baseball. You've got the Astros, which is a good look back from beginning of the season anyway, and then you've got the A's here, and it's the official start of the second half. You got what should be some good weather days here this week. You've got a few promotions. Maybe some fans will fill up the park here. You've got to give them something to see. You have to play some winning ball at home. This team starts playing some winning ball at home, then we can really start talking about something in the second half because they're definitely holding their own on the road.
Yeah, no doubt. They've been really, really good on the road, and it's just a matter of, do you have any faith that something's going to be different? They have been playing a little bit better brand of ball lately. Certainly, you can see the defense on the left side is improved, and Urshela finally broke that 13-game hitting to have that happen for a kid in his first month in the big leagues to have a 13-game history. We've seen that he's light years ahead defensively of where Lonnie was on his best day. And that all makes the future look a little bit brighter when you see a couple of young kids showing up ready to play. And even though Lindor's hitting, 210 or something or under that, he's been hitting in some tough luck too. He's been putting good bat on ball and hasn't been able to get anything to fall in lately. So I like, he's hitting better than what his average shows, in my opinion.
Well, I agree, and he's keeping it up on the field, and I mean, there's definitely, he's one that we mentioned before. He had flown through a little bit and then struggled a bit with the adjustment to AAA. So I said when he came up that I wouldn't be surprised if offensively there may have been some adjustments, but as long as he can keep his head above water, keep flashing the leather, and really keep himself alive that way, that he'll catch up offensively. Urshela, much better than him. He's hitting about 50 points stronger than Lindor, but as you mentioned, and how about the uniqueness of that streak with it being a hit per game along the way, which is a pretty interesting way of tagging along that streak from game to game too.
Yeah, you're right. And speaking of streaks, Jerry, how about the streak? And I don't know if we really got a chance to talk much about it, but the streak of starting pitching by the three Tribe starters. Or I think I read somewhere about the modern. I'm talking about the 3 no-hit through 5 inning thing.
Nobody's done that since 61.
Isn't that a modern era record or something? No team has done that hitless through 5 innings, 3 games in a row.
Not just hitless. It was perfect.
If I'm not mistaken, that's a never before done thing, right?
Not just hitless. They were perfect through a minimum of 5 innings, 3 days in a row. That has not been done since the expansion era, since 61 when they changed.
Oh, okay. I thought they were talking about maybe a live ball era or something. I didn't know how far back they went with that record, but
think about
even
that.
as that was happening, as Carrasco's pitching his no into the 9th, I'm thinking, gee, that's got to be the first time that a team has gone perfect through 5 innings, three games in a row. And I don't know how far back it goes, but it's remarkable.
And I don't know about you guys that listen to the show, but every one of these near misses, I think of Dan right away because I'm like, he's the one that said it beginning of the season.
It's coming.
I
still think it's coming, Jerry.
It is. I believe it. I think that's why I said I think in the second half of the season, you're going to see that, and you're going to see some even stronger performances, man, because these guys are the real deal. And I saw somewhere in the Plain Dealer over the weekend an interesting article about how with the strikeouts down, I mean it's actually been because obviously you've got the better defense now behind them, which means you lessen that margin of error a little bit, and that's where, man, if the offense can just, and Thursday's game was a great one. We were on the air talking about it while it was going on. The way they were able to get those 2-out hits and 2-out runs across the board, keep the train moving, keep the assembly line moving. If they can get that doggone situational hitting moving right, that's going to go a long way because the other pieces are there. And that kind of moves right into and as you said, this homestand will help determine it. But, man, if you're the Indians front office right now, cut the jokes and the snark about whatever you think about them. I don't know which way you could really make an argument for how do you handle it? Do you let it play itself out? Do you go make a move? And Mike had a good point the other day about maybe this is the perfect time for the Indians. And tell me what you think of this. Perfect time for the Indians to make a trade along the lines of when they traded for Ubaldo a few years ago, because it was a trade rooted in 2 things. It was, it could help you for this stretch run here, which it didn't do for them then, but you had 2.5 years of control coming up afterwards. So it was a help now and in the future type deal, and they ended up giving up a couple of prospects, and we saw how that worked out. But perhaps if they're going to make some kind of move, it's one of those kind of deals where they go after somebody that they wouldn't normally go after.
Well, I think it's a good idea to go with somebody that's going to help you beyond 2015. I mean, I think that's sort of a given with where the organization is with their philosophy 365 days a year, to be a long-term contender as opposed to putting the eggs in the 2015 basket. Right. So, yeah, I think that's true. And as you look back on that Ubaldo trade, it doesn't look half bad since one of the pitchers is out of baseball, as far as I know. I don't think Alex White is pitching any longer, and Pomeranz has become a decent left-handed pitcher in this league. But he's not going to be playing in Cincinnati next week. I mean, as far as the All-Star game, in other words, he was a first-round pick, but he's not a front-of-the-rotation starter kind of a guy. So that worked out all right, and we got a good year out of Ubaldo. But again, I just think it's not as though the Indians have a whole bunch of prospects that they can say, well, is it time to, because our prospects are here now. With the possible exception of an outfield candidate if if a Murphy trade or something would happen, and you've got Ramsey or Holt sitting down there that you could bring up. So I think whoever you trade for, you're not looking necessarily at somebody who's going to help you this year. I don't see them trying to trade for a starting pitcher that they're going to insert in a rotation. And, knock on wood, Cody Anderson is what we've seen from Cody Anderson so far, and not just a mirage. And there's not a spot open in this rotation right now. So I don't know where you go unless it's a big bat that you can bring in that you can insert right into your 25-man roster and count on them to help you this season.
Well, and that was kind of where he was going. Instead of looking at a pitcher like Ubaldo at that point, he was saying, hey, so he said, outfield obviously would be in the equation, and then, of course, first base. It all ends up circling back to, the albatrosses that are there, that are going to be there no matter what. So those are issues not even worth kicking out and talking about, because you're going to be paying those guys no matter what. And that's why I think that this offseason, what the Indians do as far as that goes will be crucial for the next couple of years, because if you're going to be stuck paying it, that's fine. And you know who we're talking about. But if you're going to be stuck paying it and you're going to let it sabotage the next couple of seasons, then that's just a terrible time, But, hey, yeah, you know what,
right.
Bruce, there's an interesting one, real quick, Dan. How about the talk about maybe potentially the match? But then again, what do you trade out? Talking about Yasiel Puig coming from the Dodgers because of some talk that they may have soured on his attitude, and that a lot of the same things that were said about other guys that the Indians have taken chances on. But who do you trade out to bring that in? And is that the type of guy that the Indians ownership really goes and gets?
Well, typically not from the standpoint of, buying somebody else's attitude problem. That's not the Indians' style. But, this team is looking for A, right-handed power, and B, corner outfield. So it certainly fits their need in terms of a position player that's got pop and plays a corner position. Right now, I see the Indians' three biggest needs long term as left field, right field, first base. I mean, you pretty much have starters penciled in at all those other places and under team control for a lot of years. So, yeah, if you can bring a right fielder in here that's right-handed and has power, let's do it, and let's see if we can, deal with the attitude issues, whatever they might be. Certainly, he's an immense talent if you can harness it.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, think about that. You want to play, just give yourself a second to deal with fantasy and reality for a minute. Plug that into this lineup, pitch around that lineup now, and then and tell me what the potential for what the Indians can do. And Bruce is a great point, and I saw this brought up by several people. I mean, that is the type of player, even with what, and again, I don't know enough to talk about what kind of issues he may or may not have. I mean, I don't even follow the Dodgers beat on a daily basis, so I don't know how that is or not. But I mean, obviously, Tito Francona has dealt with guys like that before. He's been in the big fishbowl, man. He's had some interesting personalities and attitudes to deal with, and he's made them not just work, but made them work together and made them all positives instead of negatives, man. So maybe that's something that balances out the bad that comes with that.
That's true, and certainly you'd have to look at Santana going back to the Dodgers, maybe being as one of those pieces that might be involved there. And I'm sure you'd probably have to throw in some prospects, probably some outfield prospects, whether it might be a Naquin or a Frazier or somebody like that, which you could see being included in a deal like that. And obviously just winging it off the top of my head here on who knows what the Dodgers might want. It's not like the Indians have, prime AAA pitching prospects that they could deal. I don't know that there's any such thing down there in Columbus right now. But obviously most of their pitching prospects are younger kids, and maybe some of those would have to be included too. But certainly it's a deal that gets my attention and gets my interest because, A, you've got a good players manager in the dugout, and it's certainly a position of need.
Be very interesting to see. And I was trying to pull up his his salary here to see what that, because obviously
well,
that's
he's
the
still
other
a young
side
player
of the
under team
equation.
control. I'm assuming. I don't think
Right, I
he's only
believe
been
so. I think he's only maybe a $5 million. I'm pulling it up now here. Yeah,
I think about a
right.
third year player, maybe, right?
Right. He here we go. He's signed through 2018. It was a 7-year, $42 million contract signed in 2012 to take him from 12 to 2018. So yeah, he's got less.
Great.
He's got less than
three more years
yeah.
of team control.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
yeah. He's got less than 2 years of service time. He's not arbitration eligible until 2019, and he's not a free agent until 2020. So that is, as far as that aspect of things, that's definitely the part of that would interest the Indians financially. That's for sure. And I mean, you're talking about a guy. Look at some of those numbers, and obviously, his batting average has slipped every season. Each of the past couple of seasons, but hey, so be it, because he's got power, he's got the ability to drive in the ball. I mean, there's a lot to think about there, for the Indians.
And that's only what, a $6 million average salary per year, 42 for 7 years or something. That's very manageable. Also, when you talk about the numbers that are being kicked around today for power hitting outfielders.
Here, I'll give you the exact numbers. I've just pulled up the year-to-year breakdown. He is at 6. It jumped up. He was at $3 million for the 2012, 13, and 14 seasons. 2015, 6.2. 2016, 7.2. Then 8.2, and then 9.2 million. So at no point is he even over 9.2 million at its highest as the thing goes through. It's about 20.
Right, and of course, compared to Swisher and Bourne. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mention those guys' names.
Seriously,
don't want bad
think
things
about
to
that.
happen on the show here.
Think about that, man. I mean, you could get this cat for the next 3.5 seasons for what you still owe Nick Swisher for next year. I mean, that's a scary thing right there, man.
Yeah, that is. And I'm sorry for mentioning the name.
Yeah,
you're gonna be,
we're
going
there,
off
man.
the air here with some gremlins here any moment.
We're already there, but I hear you. But that
yeah.
was something interesting. I saw that kicked around on a couple of articles, and then Bruce just brought that up there, so I wanted to throw that out there with you. But I mean, that's the kind of move. I believe something like that is exactly what Mike is referring to when you talk about making a move like that. For a guy like that, with the ability to have a couple of seasons of control, it gives you the double option of him helping you, or if you need to, if things go south, you can also flip that back around and recoup assets, even though you don't want to look at it that way as well. But
yeah, hey, wanted to talk to you a little bit about the All-Star game situation too.
That was good. Yeah,
and the Kipnis situation here. Obviously, he's a bona fide all-star. Francona says if he's not an all-star, no one is, or there isn't one, or something like that today. But the situation at second base is very tough with Altuve, I guess, winning the vote. Right, he finally got ahead of Infante.
Omar Infante, ripped off.
Who in no way deserves to be an all-star.
What?
But,
you don't think Infante got ripped off with his, 175 batting average or whatever he's got going on over there, man? I'm just kidding. I don't know. He's hitting.
Yeah, the thing of it is,
he's
and
terrible.
It just made me realize, as they're talking about the names involved, how deep the American League is at second base. For heaven's sake, I mean, you've got Altuve, you've got Kipnis, and Brian Dozier's having a heck of a year. Dustin Pedroia, Ian Kinsler. Robinson Cano, for heaven's sake. I mean, it's ridiculous how strong the position is in the American League, but they're talking about, it looks like, because the players vote, and I'm reading a Gabe Schoenfeld column on ESPN about it this morning, and I guess the players have a vote, and the players, according to what he says, they tend to vote for people to get off to a fast start. Well, Kipnis didn't get off to a fast start, but both Pedroia and Kinsler did. They may end up getting the player vote, and that's going to leave either Dozier or Kipnis out in the cold, and what a crime that would be, because they're both having phenomenal years.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just going to talk about that with you anyway, but Terry Francona, the whole breakdown. Look at what Jason, and that's a great point. Look at what Jason Kipnis has done, though, man. I mean, sometimes, I get the fan voting and all of that stuff. And if you're talking about marginal guys, then I understand that every fan base has got a guy that they go, oh, well, you overlooked this guy or they didn't respect that guy. But, man, look at what Jason Kipnis has done. It's absolutely ridiculous here. I mean, go through. He's third in batting average. He's second in on-base percentage. He's .341 batting average, .419 on base. Slugging percentage, .506. OPS 925, fourth in the league. He's first in hits, first in doubles. He's got himself 10 stolen bases. He's got 56 runs scored. His wins above the replacement player of him is the highest in the American League, and it may be all of baseball, I'm not sure, but it's nearly 5. I mean, that's I'm not big on that stat, but if you are, that's a very impressive number there, and it's amazing that a guy like that doesn't just get voted in because of all the the shenanigans that go along with that there, but man, Look at those numbers we just framed out there, man. What a hell of a run for Jason Kipnis in the first half.
Yeah, it really is amazing, especially when you think about how he hit 218 in April.
Right.
Which
yes.
tells you that for May and June and so far in July, I think the number I heard yesterday was like 4 something. In that time, 480. Could that be possible?
Well, he was at 430 in May. In May was 430, so I don't know what June.
Okay, 430, and I think it's been 4 something in June as well, because to be at that 350 number after hitting 218 in April is really you got to be tearing it up, and he's torn it up for now about 10 weeks straight through May, June, and the first part of July. So just an amazing run, and you're right, he's going to be on the All-Star team.
For sure.
I'm afraid because someone has to be from this team. I could see Carrasco being named to the team too with his 10 wins,
especially
being named
with
to the
that
pitching
start.
staff. That wouldn't surprise me.
That near no hitter being the last memory that a lot of these coaches and these guys that are watching may remember that strong because it came so close to the end of the half. That's going to stick there as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, and even if it's just a nod to Cleveland starting pitching overall, that they would pick one or the other of those guys, and Carrasco's the guy that's got the stats to back up his selection. Double-digit wins, where there's only I think two American League pitchers, Hernandez and him, that have double-digit wins in the first half. So, a couple guys in the National League, Cole and a couple of others, but. So I can see that happening, but if that means Brian Dozier doesn't make it, boy, that's almost as big a travesty as leaving Kipnis off the team because Dozier's having a phenomenal year too.
For sure. And since you went there, it was interesting when Terry Francona was talking about the All-Star game and Kipnis and that you bring up Carrasco, and Francona did too, and then he went right past him and said Kluber realistically has had even better of a first, which I think is funny because there's different ways that people look at Corey Kluber. I think obviously he's had, the record, stands out, but you move that out of the way. He's had a few non-Corey Kluber-like starts, but when you look at the overall numbers that the Indians trot out here to back him up, you go, wow, man. I mean, he really is, it's nowhere near the drop-off that some people would make it sound. I mean, he's still, obviously leads the league in strikeouts. He's second in innings pitched. He's third in strikeouts per 9 innings. His wins above replacement is still second among pitchers in the American League. So he's had but I thought it was interesting, the choice of words. Terry Francona said, hey, Carrasco's been good. He's got 10 wins, but Kluber's been better. And I think a lot of people are just kind of brushing past that as excuse-making for a 3-9 record. But realistically, he's had a couple of non-Kluber-like starts. But Corey Kluber's been better than people are giving him credit for in the first half.
You're right, he has. He's had specifically trouble in the first inning. And that's been consistent over about the last half dozen starts, where he's given up sometimes 2-3 runs in the first inning and then really settled in. But you're right, he's finding out what it's like to be a number one guy and face other teams' ace, finding out what that means in terms of the run support that he gets. And I think everybody would agree that he hasn't been as sharp, as unhittable as he looked at times last year. But the numbers don't lie, and the wins above replacement, the ERA is in the high threes
he's
now.
He's still top 20 in the league. Yeah, he's about 20th in the league in ERA, somewhere around there. So, I mean, he's still most definitely, and it's like a 3.6. I mean, that's, again, if they were providing some offense when he pitched, his numbers would look even better, because that's the biggest thing is, I mean, he's pitched at
the
the
lack
point
of
where
run
he
support.
gives,
he just
gets
hasn't
2.
done that.
He gets 2 a game. That's the average when he pitches. It's just 2 runs every game flat. I don't even think there's a point something after it. I think it's just a flat 2 runs a game. And at that point, if your ERA is anything over 3, you're going to lose more than you win, because that is just a tough number, especially in the American League, to only get 2 runs per game run support.
Yeah, you're right. You're just not going to beat too many teams in the American League with 2 runs, and the Indians proved that over that 13-game stretch where they averaged about 1.5 and went 4-9 and got shut out 5 times. With
great
just
pitching,
not cut
you
it.
know. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you're pitching at that point. That's a margin of error that you just can't put. The best of pitchers can only walk that line so much, you know. We watched the Indians do it last year. I mean, that was the whole stretch run, was how many scoreless innings can these pitchers keep giving while the offense won't score runs, you know? And they just kept doing it until the dam finally broke near the end.
Yeah, you're right. And just looking, again, just thinking a little bit more about this team's chances going forward, I didn't hear you mention this morning anything about Miggy Cabrera going down, but with the Tigers 1 game over 500 and living without Miggy Cabrera for the next 6 weeks, you can't really like their prospects based on how bad their starting pitching has been. And I don't think anybody really expects the Minnesota Twins to play 4 games over 500 for the rest of the year. You've got to expect a little bit of a fade from them. So, the division right there is, I'm not going to say it's there for the taking, because Kansas City's way out front, and you've got 3 or 4 wild card contenders over in the East that you've got to deal with. But, geez, the situation does set up reasonably well, at least as you're projected out over the next month or so, for the Indians to make a move. It's just a matter of having any faith about whether they're going to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc, Dan Wismar talking about the Indians. We're going to talk some Cavs and some NBA free agency here in just a minute. Welcome in, you guys that may be just joining us. I was going to bring up Cabrera going down. He's out 6 weeks, and, you know, it kind of – you look at that month at the end of the season where all the Central teams play each other, where the Indians have Detroit a bunch of times, and the key there is like you said, it's not that it's there for the taking, but now your window is even wider. The Indians have to turn themselves around. They have to continue to cut the distance between these teams, and then if you theoretically, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but you need to bypass Detroit over this 6-week stretch and put hopefully a little bit of distance there, because you do know that at some point, second half of the second half, you're going to have him back strong, healthy. Because even if he comes back, you figure you're probably looking at 2 months before he's back and ramped up and back in the middle of that lineup. So that stretch run right there, that's that month where he's back in the lineup just in time to face the Indians and the rest of the Central Division. So you've got to build yourself some equity there to prepare yourself for that last run when they do get Cabrera back. I mean, as much as you're looking at it as an opportunity, that's the biggest one, is to get yourself a cushion, hopefully, because you know, I could just see it. There's going to be a furious Tigers run in the month of September because of all those division games and getting, hey, I mean, you're letting one of the best offensive players in the league get healthy and then come in without the month of August, that wear and tear on his legs, without that July, August wear and tear. Man, they're going to have a run in September. I can feel it coming.
Yeah, you're probably right, and Miggy Cabrera could come up to the plate on crutches and hit the ball. So
true.
I don't worry about that. But speaking of, going back just for a second to the Yasiel Puig talk, was that is there a source for that? Is that a bona fide rumor?
No,
That's just something
it wasn't.
That Bruce floated out of his imagination.
No. But where Bruce got that from is I saw the article over the weekend, and I want to say it may have been CBS Sports. It wasn't a Indians are talking about a trade. It was from an LA sort a writer.
Just saying the Dodgers would be willing to part with him.
The Dodgers are looking at perhaps moving him, and they were saying that the Indians really kind of lined up as the type of team that would be conducive to making that deal. And
okay, all right.
I
hadn't seen it. I just wonder what the source of that was.
No, it was simply speculation, and that was one where I said, "Hey, that almost makes so much sense that it can't happen," because that one's just right there going, "Hey, man, let's see." Because really, the Terry Francona aspect of it to me makes a whole lot of sense, man. It's not like he didn't. Yeah, that's it was the LA Times, I think, was the initial source Bruce said there, and then it kind of got kicked around the internet from there. But it's kind of speculation on their end. And, I didn't get into it yet. Somebody sent me a link last night, and I got it when I woke up, but I didn't get to it yet. Apparently another article going out over the weekend about some the 9 outfield prospects. They might have been from Everybody Hates Cleveland, wasn't it? And
it may have been. It may have been. I didn't see it,
and I haven't caught up on
either.
Everything from the weekend yet. But yeah, about the possible prospects, because now is the time that if you're the Indians, to me, I mean, this homestand and the next road trip, coming up after the All-Star game determines which direction we're going to go in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. We talked at the 1st of July that the 31st of July, we'd know the answers to our questions. Yeah. I still think that's the case, and we might know it after the next 7 ball games with Houston and Oakland too.
And then I'll tell you what, man. I mean, I'm just saying, for everybody that packed up the wagons already, you guys, just don't put the teepees away just yet, because I really do think that the Indians are going to, man, this pitching is going to be something to lean on. It's just going to be a matter of, does the rest of it come together, man? I can't wait to see it. This homestand is going to be good. We'll get into it more, but what do you got going tonight? I know Dallas Keuchel, one of my favorite names in Major League Baseball, he just sounds like a baseball player. He's taking the mound.
Yeah, facing Cole and Keuchel back to back is no picnic for this team. But, so yeah, after that, hopefully it gets a little bit easier with the Houston starters.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got Keuchel going tonight. He's 10-3, basically a 2-flat ERA. Carrasco's matching up with him. Then you go back to the righties. You got Velasquez and Kluber tomorrow. You got Dan Straley, and the Dan Straley taking the mound against Trevor Bauer, and Colin McHugh wraps up the 4-game stretch against Cody Anderson. And how about that? Cody Anderson, 3 starts. And, I mean, everybody's going to adjust to him, and the key is going to be him adjusting back. But, man, 0.7, I believe 7.3 ERA in his first 3 starts. I mean, just practically untouchable. What an amazing start for him, man. How much of that do you expect to hold up?
It's hard to say, because just watching him, it seems like he's so fastball reliant. That major league players, sit on fastballs. In fact, you noticed the other day that teams, and I think teams are doing it against the Indians with other starters as well, but first pitch swinging, because they know how much this staff likes to pound the strike zone and likes to get ahead with first pitch fastballs. I see guys sitting on Kluber's first pitch all the time this year. That's a big reason, I think, why he's been hit hard in the first inning. You notice teams first pitch swinging, and they were first pitch swinging against Cody Anderson the other day too, and he got a lot of fly balls, pop-ups out of it. But I don't know. I haven't seen the secondary stuff yet to know how well that's going to hold up. If he is throwing 80% fastballs, I think sooner or later teams are going to be wise to that and be sitting on him.
Oh, you have to think that. I mean, clearly, and that's what Mike was saying the other day, pretty much, when I posed a similar question to him, is that's going to be it. Is once he starts having to use his secondary stuff, is he able to, then be able to readjust once the book starts to be out on him? So it'll be interesting. It's definitely fun to to watch it, and hopefully we continue to see. And Mike had a great point, and I agree with it. It just, you've watched him pitch here a couple of times, and again, I know the adjustment's going to come, but it's a different situation and a different feeling than, say, a TJ House or one of the fifth starters that we've seen out there that's had some success in their first couple of starts. I mean, obviously, Cody Anderson's got big time stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a little bit different, and even when you know a fastball's coming, when it's coming at 97,
right.
Good luck. Or you're going to get under it, or he's going to knock the bat out of your hand and get a lot of fly balls. It's not like you're counting on, like you say, the TJ Houses and Bruce Chins and Sean Markhams, where you're hoping that they can pitch to contact and keep the ball in the park and get lucky and get, nibble on the corners of the plate and get good calls from the umpire. Because that's really what you're hoping for when those guys are out there. So, yeah, it is different to have a power pitcher out there who's bringing it in the mid-90s every fastball. And
here's the thing, though,
like I said, even when you're sitting on it, doesn't mean you can hit it.
But, when you look at the game that he pitched against the Pirates over the weekend, Mickey Callaway, and that's right along the lines of what you're talking about, brought up how that was really the first time. The first two starts, he was really heavily on that fastball, and he started to break out that changeup against the Pirates. And that was one of the things Mickey Callaway was talking about after the game, that he thought that pitch is the key, and that's what people are going to see is that and you know what, that to me has always been common sense, man. When if you've, and I don't understand how pitchers, it's easy to say this, but I mean, it's just common sense to me is if you've got a dominating fastball, you figure out how to throw a hell of a changeup and you're unhittable, because especially those guys that can throw the changeup that looks exactly like their fastball. I mean, how do you hit that guy? Because now you're just going up there guessing and hoping to get it right every once in a while, and that's kind of the way Mickey Callaway talked about this kid's ability to throw the change. And if he can do that with the fastball that he's got, he may stick around for a while,
Yeah, you're right. As long as you're not tipping that changeup with some little quirk
in
your delivery, and that's where a young pitcher sometimes has a harder time than a veteran, because a veteran learns how to not tip the changeup, and the bottom just drops out of it, and guys are way out in front of it because they're looking for 96 miles an hour. Even if you've got 10 or 12 mile an hour difference on the two pitches, that can make you almost unhittable. I don't think I've seen Cody Anderson throw a curveball yet. I mean, I obviously didn't watch every pitch of every start, but
man.
It really is fastball change and not a whole lot else.
Oh, absolutely. That third pitch has got to come soon. But I will say this. Hey, Indians fans, we like to go back to different seasons before. They didn't figure out J-Rocc Wright until 98. That's all I'm saying. They didn't figure him out until 98. So maybe this kid can bring some of that same juju for a playoff run here for the Indians, and we'll have one of those nights. And you know what? I was saying something to this. I think Jonathan Knight and I were talking, not on the air, but just as we were messing around here in the studio. I mean, this season here is kind of, if you want to project ahead and think that the Indians have a good second half coming for them, it really would be not exactly. It's not like it's written like a storybook, but like that 97 team that didn't even though they were expected to win, these Indians were too. It's different but the same, because they stumbled and they scuffled and nobody would have really seen it coming, and they kind of get it going, and you could see that some of the same pieces that helped that happen in the second half, the Indians, being able to rely on your pitching and then getting contributions from a couple of key guys that you maybe didn't have in the plans in spring training, coming together and going on that crazy run. And then you just had, the luck of the Irish with you along the way once you hit the playoffs. But, if you're thinking ahead, man, there's some correlations there. Maybe Cody Anderson plays the part of J-Rocc Wright in this second half of the story.
Yeah, that would be sweet. And at least now what you're looking at is, it used to be 4 out of every 5 games you felt good about your starting pitcher. Well, now it's 5 out of every 5 games.
Man.
At least until Cody Anderson proves that he's a mortal. We'll feel good about our starter every single night. So that's that makes the team still worth watching. The pitching staff, I think, makes the team worth watching every night, and because you've always got the you got no hit stuff going out there every night, and it will happen, Jerry. I think it will.
I agree. And you know what else? Seriously, not to just keep piling on to the young kids, man, but there's another one. If you were getting, maybe, the Tribes, I'm watching games here and there, but I don't watch every night because of whatever reason, like those kids flashing some leather out there too on the left side of the infield. There's a new reason to not miss games again because, man, I don't know, man. I think just as it does for the fan base, I think perhaps it does for the Indians itself. Watching some of these guys, there's several now. Look at the key contributors since the Indians started playing better, and not just key. I mean, there's been veterans too, but look at the infusion of youth, and that's not just on the field, but that youthful vibe in general. Sometimes a club needs that, and you can feel this club feels maybe like the air around them is a little bit easier to breathe, even if they still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, you're right. And then I think even you can take a couple of veterans, Kipnis and Brantley, and make them part of that same youthful feel that this team has. These guys are still on the front end of their careers too, and even though they're veterans as far as this team goes, they're you don't lose any of that youthful exuberance with those guys.
For sure. I'm with you, man. And again, but watching those guys play, all of it, man. Again, the Indians, first half in the books. They start the second half tonight. Houston should be a good one with Dallas Keuchel and Carlos Carrasco. Hey, let's shift gears, Dan. Let's talk a little basketball here. I was talking about it earlier, and all the stuff this weekend. I mean, I don't know. Where do you want to start with anything that's out here with the Cavs? Because there may be things that you want to get into first, but there's a lot of stuff floating out there. So where do you want to jump into?
Well, let's talk about the proposed Joe Johnson deal first of all.
Okay.
And we've talked before about how national media has a different take than everybody else. National media wants to talk about controversy, and they want to talk about LeBron holding out on trying to entice free agents to come here, and he's not reaching out because he wants to make sure they take care of his boy Tristan Thompson. In other words, what that means to me is they share an agent. Rich Paul's working right now on some other deal, and he hasn't turned his attention to Tristan Thompson yet. There's a couple little details in the agreement that they haven't worked out with Thompson, and because of this, here's LeBron sitting over there, harumphing around because they haven't caved into every demand that Tristan Thompson has made. To me, that whole narrative is ridiculous.
Let me ask you something, Dan, real quick, just right there, because before you go into a different direction, what's funny about that is you would think if that was the case that LeBron would not have went and had a meeting and convinced Kevin Love, who plays the same position as Tristan Thompson, to get his money before Tristan got his money. You know what I mean? Like, somehow LeBron was able to go, all right, let me go convince Kevin Love to come back first. Then I'll get Tristan paid. Nobody else. I'm not talking to anybody else now. I'm only going to talk to Kevin Love. And by the way, we're just going to throw this out there. For those of you that think Tristan Thompson's deal is not done, an hour before we went on the air, TJ Ford, who's a Texas alum down there as well, congratulated Tristan Thompson on re-signing with the Cavaliers and gave him the old
I saw that too, and I wondered if TJ Ford was just late to the party or early to the party.
I'm just saying
on
that
one.
He may know something that we will soon find out, because I it's what you said. That's what I heard, was there was other deals that Rich Paul was taking care of first, and now they'll dot the I's and cross the T's on the Tristan Thompson deal, and that there is no big brush fire going on here. And I think by the time we come back tomorrow, this thing could be wrapped up with Tristan Thompson. This is not any kind of a drama at all.
Right, and then Rich Paul is going to sit down after he gets Thompson. Then he's going to sit down. He's going to crank out the LeBron James contract. I just think that the people that want to make drama out of this are just looking foolish, like you said, like just as foolish as they looked with the Kevin Love situation. They're not learning from their mistakes, and they're trying to create a story where there is none. But let's just talk now about another one of LeBron's favorites, and that would be Anderson Varejao.
Yes.
LeBron. I always think about this. The quote from Jimmy Brown that I love about. I'm not loyal to my friend because he's right. I'm loyal to my friend because he's my friend. That kind of thing. Like LeBron and his loyalty issue with Anderson. He wants to get Anderson Varejao a ring, and he would never do anything to jeopardize that. Unless of course he might be able to get Joe Johnson for Andy Varejao. I don't know we'll find out. I guess where the LeBron loyalty lies, and whether it is LeBron in fact or David Griffin who's pulling the strings and making deals for this team, and whether LeBron is the general manager in addition to the coach. I guess we're going to find out some answers to those things. We see if Anderson Varejao goes to Brooklyn and to try to bring Joe Johnson in here. The whole other matter whether investing all that money, $25 million a year in a 34-year-old player, is a wise move in the long term for this team. I told you last week, and I still think so, Jerry, that I don't think adding guys in their mid-30s to this team is a direction that I would go myself if it were up to me. But I understand what season leadership and all that good stuff. This team that needs them. I'm conflicted about bringing a 34-year-old guy in here at $25 million.
That was where I wanted to start with you. Before we even look at what goes out, what comes in, is what were your thoughts on that? I'm with you. I mean, I guess there's different levels of this. Like, okay, even if you were to look at that, I mean, then the second part of that is who do you replace Anderson Varejao with? Because then the question comes in, because really the whole David West thing, when I heard about that, I'm like, well, where does he fit on the Cavs? Because they've got the one position that they've got locked down is the big man spot. That's that really seemed like you and I were talking. There were a couple of big men that would have been a good draft pick as far as talent for the Cavs, but they didn't need them. It was a luxury pick that they really didn't have a spot for. So that's kind of interesting there, because obviously if Varejao goes out, then there's that. And do you like the Cavaliers better with getting a different asset for Haywood's contract and keeping Varejao, or do you like adding the combination of Joe Johnson and David West to the Cavaliers team and trading out Varejao for that? Looking at Joe Johnson, by the way, for those of you guys out there not too familiar with what he's done, because obviously he had the bulk of his success. He's been playing for a long time, by the way. I mean, Joe Johnson's a 14-year veteran now, and he had his initial run in Phoenix. He had the long run in Atlanta where he ended up cashing in. Then he went to Brooklyn, and they're still paying. This, by the way, his contract, Dan, perfect example of the craziness about the NBA, because in 2010 or whatever, when he signed it, it was like the highest contract then. And now here, 5 years later, some team's going to have to pay him $25 million. It's like these contracts that we're seeing now, that 4 or 5 years from now, somebody's going to be paying, Goran Dragic, $20 million 5 years from now or something like that. And I'm not trying, I know he's a decent prospect or whatever, but still, just where I'm going with that. That's the
right. Well, I heard today, and unless I'm mistaken, I heard Joe Johnson was the second highest paid player in the NBA.
Second highest paid. Yeah, Kobe Bryant's
behind Kobe.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, Jerry, as far as big men and replacing Anderson Varejao, I don't think you can look at it as replacing Anderson Varejao. Anderson Varejao didn't contribute to the team that was 2 wins away from a title.
Right.
And we were already talking about a team that would have Thompson and Love and Mozgov, 3 bigs, and what everyone is, the consensus is that it's a league that's going small. So again, I don't know that there's a big void to fill for Andy Varejao on this team, other than an emotional void and a fan favorite void and a LeBron loyalty void. The intangible part of it. Losing Andy Varejao, who the fans love.
Absolutely, and I'm looking at Joe Johnson here, and just in comparisons, obviously his strongest run was those 7 years in Phoenix, but he's played a slightly different role here for Brooklyn, but he's played practically the same amount of time. He's played 3 minutes less a game in Brooklyn than he did during those 7 seasons in Atlanta, and there was already a significant drop-off in his production from the prime of his career in Atlanta. I mean, he's down 6 points a game, a couple of rebounds a game, and again, I mean, in very similar minutes. I mean, you always worry, and this is what you're talking about, I'm sure, about those mid-late 30 players that which season, like Sean Marion. I think Sean Marion is the perfect example of the danger of walking the line with those players because he had a strong season his last year there in Dallas, right? And then you're thinking, okay, well, if he can just match what he did there, that's a great contribution. But the Cavs got him on the season where he just didn't have it anymore, and he just did not have that extra level to go get. That's the risk you take with these guys.
Yeah, you're right, and I'm not so sure that Sean Marion was given the minutes to show what he could or couldn't do this year. He just really didn't have playing time to demonstrate that. But I think, players practice and coaches see players in practice, and that's what ends up getting them on the court. So you got to trust the management of the team. But yeah, better to get rid of a guy a year too soon than a year too late. We talked about that, and that's why I'm just hesitant in a league that is more and more small, quick, athletic, long, and priority on defense and everything else. That adding 34-year-old guys to your roster isn't the way to go. But again, teams that are a player or two away, and this team obviously is just that, 2 games away from a championship. Without Love and Kyrie, you got to believe that anything they do at the back end of that roster and that bench might be enough to put you over. Maybe it's going to be an 8th or a 9th man this coming season that's going to make the difference between get those 2 extra wins.
Absolutely. And another thing too that's going to be key that doesn't really matter this season, and maybe they look at this as far as when the contracts drop off the books, is the reason that Brooklyn has to move this Joe Johnson contract and do some other things is they've already paid the luxury tax. They're now in a position to pay the repeat luxury tax, which is where after you violated the tax several years in a row, they quadruple the dollar amount. So you end up owing as it stands now, the Cavaliers' payroll with what they've got to do to fill out the roster, and that's without a Joe Johnson type deal, they're projecting out to pay more this season in luxury tax than salary. If you can believe that, they will end up paying more in tax bill than they will in salary for this season when the whole thing gets all added up and put together. But the key for the Cavs is sometime in the next 3 years, they have got to not mess with the roster, but get the salary cap, get back down under it. They got to stop. They got to break the repeater tax. Otherwise, they will absolutely have to tear this whole thing apart within 3 or 4 years because they'll end up paying a couple, $200-300 million in a 1-year luxury bill, which is what Brooklyn's getting ready to face. They've already got the record for the Cavs are about to break Brooklyn's record for the highest luxury tax bill coming up. But that's going to be the other key for them is within the next 2 to 3 seasons, they've got to find a way to drop back under the threshold for 1 year so then they can start breaking it again and not be a repeat offender.
Well, that's true, and basically everything I've read, now they are going to get a little bit of relief from the luxury tax over the next 2 seasons as the cap goes up, and it goes up, over $100 million 2 years from now, and they say with 3 years from now it's likely to be approximately double what it is right now, which is 67. By the way, I've found, I don't know if you know Jacob Rosen, but a guy writes over at waitingfornextyear.com.
Yes, I've seen his stuff.
Has done a pretty nice job on an ongoing basis, sort of cataloging all the Cavaliers and their salary issues. If you want to go someplace where that's spelled out pretty neatly for you, they are going to get some relief. But it's nice to have an owner that doesn't care and that has enough money not to care in Dan Gilbert, and certainly he's demonstrated time and again that he's hungry to win the title and willing to do what it takes. And so fortunately, he's going to get a little bit of relief over the next couple of years when that cap goes up by leaps and bounds.
Dan Wismar, everybody hates Cleveland, the Cleveland fan, joining us, and I actually saw some of his stuff too. He's one of those stats cruncher, breaker-upper guys, and I saw some of his he's got the rotating picture that adds the luxury bill up for the Cavs. Somebody sent that to me the other day, and it's just funny to watch as they add just minimum contract players to it, and you go, wow, just look at that tax bill continue to go up and up and up. Again, you know what, Dan, the casino is subsidizing the Cavaliers. Don't worry about it. He's made plenty of money that he can afford to pay this out, but it is going to be astronomical. I mean, think about that. The Cavs over the next couple years are gonna pay more in tax than they're gonna pay out in salary. That's insane right there.
That really is kind of amazing, and I hadn't seen that number exactly spelled out yet. But
why have a salary cap? Like, why have a salary cap and then you can break it? To me, that just defeats the purpose of the word salary cap, because clearly,
right. Well, and the NBA has all kinds of other exceptions, the Bird Rule, and other ways to get around, and obviously some of those things are designed to make it easier for the team to keep their own players, which is a good thing for the league and for competitiveness, I think. To make it easier and more advantageous for a team to be able to sign their own free agents than it is for other teams to sign them. So, but yeah, it seems like there's for every rule they've got an exception built in, and it gets convoluted. But you're right, the salary cap that isn't the salary cap is especially not only confusing but sort of counterproductive.
And I'm not complaining because we've got the owner that'll spend the money. It just
right. We're benefiting from it right now. So
I just laugh. Why have it? Why even have it? Why just not just go crazy, guys? Just go out there and do it. But then again, it goes back to my question I asked earlier, Dan. Why have what's called a max contract if every time you said it, we just reach the point where everybody gets it? Like, everybody just gets the max contract. So how do you separate the superstars from the average guys and those guys from the bottom guys? Because everybody gets a max contract. Like, if you go look at the free agent signings, if you were to just go to any website that does one of those aggregate lists, roll down and read how many of them say max deal. It's all of them. Everybody practically signs for a max deal or just a hair underneath it. But it's nuts. Like, how do you then separate the best? I know you can never pay Michael Jordan or LeBron James or what their true value to the league is because of the other stuff that they bring in. But man, you know what I mean? Why even have? Because everybody.
Well,
gets
I guess the only way to separate it is because next year and the year after, the max deal will be more than the max deal is now, and so for example, Kevin Love, 5 years, 110. 3 years from now, that looks like a bargain.
Oh yeah.
So. I guess, and Kevin Love, maybe he'll be kicking himself, 3 years from now when he realizes that he's playing for 20 when he could be making 30.
I don't think so, because when you have your shoulder ripped out by Kelly Olynyk, I think guaranteeing yourself $110 million, whether you ever play another game of basketball again.
Yeah, that's kind of thing. I guess you and I'd probably sign on that line too.
Yeah, I don't know how you kick yourself later and go, boy, I could have got $200 million, but I'm guaranteed the $110 million, no matter if I ever make another basket again in my life, man. I mean, that's insanity, and that's what I mean with some of these deals. Like, I get it. You signed LaMarcus Aldridge to a max contract, LeBron James, even if you want to say Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, those level guys. But you start looking at this, and it's like, whether it's like I keep bringing up Goran Dragic just because, but these guys, like the first day of free agency, there was the first couple of guys that signed. It was like three guys, $210 million combined contracts, and none of them had ever made an All-Star game, let alone the playoffs or done anything worth anything, but never even made an all-star game. And they got, and that's just the way it is, man. But how could you ever pay? You can never pay a superstar. Like, think about it. What would be the true value? If those guys are getting that, what does Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, or what do they bring to the league? You could never pay them their true value.
Well, the other question comes down to what will a ticket to a Cavs game cost the average fan in 2020?
Think about that, Dan. Look what Dan just said. Nobody's thinking of that end of it. It's easy to say Dan will pay it, and yes, he will. But if you're paying, let's just make up numbers. You're paying $100 million in salary and $100 million in tax. That's a $200 million team every year. Those tickets have to go up. There's no way they're not going way up.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm sure, and people talk about the money that Dan Gilbert makes from Quicken Loans and from Horseshoe Casino and everything else. But Dan Gilbert's also a businessman, just like Dick Jacobs was a businessman. And the Indians were winning, and they were filling the stadium. And Dick Jacobs demanded that, John Hart turn an 8% profit every year. And Dan Gilbert wants that balance sheet to come out looking on the positive side for the Cleveland Cavaliers, too, no matter what Quicken Loans is doing and no matter what Horseshoe Casino is doing. So you're right. Those and the people that, it's a high-rolling crowd at NBA games anymore because you have to be to go to those games and to get any kind of a seat. Even the nosebleed seats are $75, $85, $95, and that's tough for Joe Sixpack to go to a basketball game. So yeah, and it's going to get nothing but worse. And all the money doesn't come from TV and cable and everything else. A lot of it comes out of fans' pockets, and it's just going to be interesting to see what happens.
Well, isn't that one of the reasons that the salary cap is expected to go up because of the increases in the TV contracts and that stuff that's coming up over the next few years too? I believe that's a function of all of that's coming around.
Oh yeah, a lot of the contract stuff is due to TV money.
Right.
There's a lot more TV money involved, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to ticket prices. And I'm not even sure, Jerry, and it'd be interesting to find out what percentage of, say, a Cavaliers team annual revenue does in fact come from ticket sales, maybe not even counting playoff ticket sales because you can't assume playoffs. That'll be interesting to find out. Maybe I'll do some digging on that, find out if that information is even publicly available. What kind of percentage of their revenue comes from ticket sales versus TV versus everything else.
Right, because, and you know what, like merchandise, I don't know about the NBA. Is it the same as the NFL? Because they do pool merchandise. You don't get the individual merchandise. And I believe the NBA is the same way, where, Kobe Bryant doesn't make money for the Kobe Bryant jersey. LeBron doesn't make money for LeBron jerseys or whatever. It's all pooled together and distributed evenly, I believe, amongst the players.
That's right. That is true. In fact, I just read that today, and I think it might have been a Terry Pluto column. That says that, first of all, Cavaliers sell more jerseys than anybody else by far. LeBron James sells more LeBron James jerseys by far than any other player. But that Joe Harris makes as much money off of it as LeBron James does. From the standpoint of the Cavaliers and any other player, the money is divided up equally for every player down to the last guy on the bench that plays 2 minutes a game.
Yeah, so that's an interesting dynamic of that there too, and something to think about. Because I remember talking to people about that with the Browns when it came to Johnny Manziel. Like, while yes, on the local level that is a part of it, they actually don't get that money per se. They all just pool that stuff together. What do you think? The Cavaliers. Do you like the Cavaliers with Joe Johnson and David West, or do you like the Cavaliers with what would you like to see them do here?
Oh, I have no problem with adding a couple veterans, especially guys like West. And if you add West and Joe Johnson and subtract Anderson Barrage out and nobody else, they look pretty unbeatable. I mean, you still want to see him go get a backup point guard, and I'm sure that they'll do something along those lines. And don't know whether Dellavedova will be part of this team or not. Again, fan favorite, but. You need to move on if you can upgrade the position. And I think most people during most of this past season felt that the Cavs could upgrade their backup point guard situation. So you see that happening. But, I guess I have faith in David Griffin to, he's obviously already secured the core of players that he's got. And if he can go out and add, strong veterans like Weston Johnson or comparable players, this team make another run, you can probably just put them right back in the finals next year.
Here's my only thing. And look, it's our team that's stacking the deck, so whatever. But I said this to somebody over the weekend. I was like, damn, how many All-Stars does it take to win a championship? Like, how many play? Because every time you turn around, people are like, "Hey, Cavs they're going to add D Wade," and then you add hey, Joe Johnson and David West, and I'm like, man, we got to be 10 deep with all. And I'm joking, but the era of stacking the team, I'm kind of being serious and tongue in cheek at the same time, like. I get, okay, Jordan needed Pippen and Horace Grant. You had to put a grouping of guys together. But once you got past 3, it was a bunch of just another guys that filled out that roster and were role players, man. And every time I hear that, I go, damn, how many do you got to put in the pile to win an NBA title nowadays? Because apparently we need to go 8-10 All-Stars deep just to make a run at this thing.
Yeah, that's true. It does seem that way, and you've got an owner with the big wallet and
I know
the desire and the willingness to do it. And
but doesn't it seem too that never wins, Dan? Like in sports in general, that feels almost like what the Cavs are doing here. If you were piecing a roster together,
it sounds like a Yankee
right.
thing.
Well,
buy your way to a title, and goodness knows they bought their way to a title more than once.
But I don't mean just that.
But it doesn't. But it doesn't always work, and it doesn't necessarily work. Is what you're saying. You got to have chemistry, and sometimes you got too many superstars. You got not enough basketballs to go around.
I mean,
you don't think that's going to happen with a distributor like LeBron and an unselfish approach to the game in general that he engenders on this team, but. You always got egos with big money and big time players come big heads, and so you never know for sure that it's going to work from a chemistry standpoint.
Yep, I mean it's interesting, man. I mean we'll see what they do, and this decision too. To me, I like Joe Johnson, but I don't see him as that much of an upgrade over J.R. Smith. I mean, yeah, maybe slightly. But not that much. And I'm not advocating bring back J.R. Smith either. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. That's kind of.
Well, I think maybe what you're going to get is consistency, because if you look up inconsistency in the dictionary, I think J.R. Smith's picture is there
all day.
But
all day.
And you couldn't possibly perform worse in the NBA Finals than J.R. Smith did. I mean, not only did he not help you, he actively hurt you. With stupid fouls and just knuckleheadedness. So I don't know. I think at least with Joe Johnson, you're going to get more consistent scoring and more consistency overall than you got from JR, because he was just so up and down. You never knew what you're going to get.
For $25 million, it better be consistent, if nothing else.
That's right.
That's for sure.
You got it.
$25 million don't get you what it used to, man. We'll see. It is fun. I'm just saying, man. $25 million used to get you a franchise, I think, man. Now, I think wasn't Hot Rod Williams when the Heat tried to sign him, and it was like the largest free agent contract ever at the time when the Cavs had to match it, and I think that was like 5 years for $25 million or something like that, and it was considered earth-shattering money for a guy like Hot Rod Williams at the time. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what those numbers were, but, yeah, I remember how people were scratching their heads going, oh, my God, how can any basketball player make this much money? Especially a guy who was not named Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, he was just a guy. And he was because of his circumstances, he was, put into that earnings range, and it'd be interesting to go back and find out what that was, because you're right, it was earth-shaking at the time, but mostly because he was just considered a good but not great player.
Yeah, pretty much. And then that was the Cavs set themselves up for that one. I remember later about that, how the Cavs had a chance to sign Hot Rod Williams a couple weeks before that for pennies on the dollar compared to what he ended up getting from the. There it is. He ended up getting a 7-year, 26. The Cavs had. That's right. The Cavs had a contract for like $13 million or something, and it was agreed to, by Hot Rod Williams, and the Cavs had 3 days to sign a contract. They waited 3 weeks to send it back to him. So then they said, forget it. We're going to go to free agency. 7 years, $26.5 million was the record at the time contract that the Miami Heat signed Hot Rod Williams to, and that ended up exploding free agency, and that caused all the Cavs problems too, because all of a sudden, Doherty and Price and these guys are making pennies compared to what Hot Rod was making to come off the bench at the time, and
which was $3.5 million. Basically what it comes down to, the 26 divided by 7.
Yeah, I mean, and at that time, Michael Jordan didn't make $3 million a year in 1990. He was only making $1.5 million. So, I mean, that'll show you how that changed the whole landscape of things, because all of a sudden, you're making double what the best player in the game's making, and you're, at that time, a sixth man for the Cavaliers.
Right,
Rod
it's
Williams
crazy. And now we got Joe Johnson making $24.9 or whatever it is.
I love
it's
it.
nuts.
I love it. Kobe makes $25 million not to play basketball last year. I'm just saying. You can say I wouldn't give it back either, but I would sure feel like I owed the Lakers a favor or two after that, man. Maybe I'd go visit a free agent or two. I'm just saying. Dan, good stuff, man. Great conversation. It was a fun weekend, and good stuff talking to you. What are we going to do on Wednesday, man? We're getting closer to football, man, even though we've still got a couple of weeks to go, Buckeyes and the Brownies.
Well, yeah, we could talk Buckeyes and Browns all day long. Why don't we do a little dabbling into football on Wednesday, and we'll have some tribe things to talk about as usual, but let's dig into the football a little bit. Maybe we'll talk about some schedules for football. I've been digging into my Phil Steele's college football magazine, the Bible of the sport here, and there's all kinds of stuff to talk about in the upcoming college season. And there's obviously plenty of stuff to talk about with the Browns too. So maybe we can dig into that a little bit.
Think about it, and I'm not even talking about the Browns and what they may do. I was just going with your first words there, talking about looking at the Buck. Think about this fall coming up in winter. Because I know I'm bypassing the Indians and the Browns right now, but the Cavs and the Buckeyes, and both are going to be stacked teams this winter that are going to be expecting to make high runs through championships. It's going to be a fun fall and winter months here, just with that alone, not even touching on what anybody else does.
Yeah, you're right. In fact, what I'm going to do when I get off the phone, I'm going to send you a couple of YouTube videos. Speaking about stacked teams, the Buckeye basketball group, they've got an unbelievable freshman class coming in. I'm going to send you, in fact, I was watching this kid last night. Daniel Giddings is his name. He's a 6'10" center from Oak Hill, the kind of prep school basketball powerhouse down in Virginia. He's playing at Oak Hill this year, his senior year, and coming into one of the best big men I've seen in the high school ranks. He was rated the 5th or 6th best center in the country. I'd like to see the 5 or 6 guys that are better than he is. Just very athletic and long and good offensive moves and a great shot blocker. There's a new highlight video out on him, and also the kid Mickey Mitchell, brother of Mike Mitchell, the Buckeye recruit that kind of flamed out from football and transferred out. But his brother is coming in to play basketball this fall. 6'8", left-handed forward, kind of a swing, 3-4 kind of swing man. Can also play the 2. Versatile player, great passer, shooter, just an all-around great ball player. So there's some new highlight videos on those guys. Buckeye basketball might be something to get a little bit excited about this coming year, too.
Let's do it. Let's talk some Buckeyes, Browns. We'll talk a little Indians as well, and whatever else is going on Wednesday.
Sounds good, Jerry. Be back at you Wednesday. Thanks for having me, as usual.
You got it. As always, my man, Dan Wismar. Take it easy. He'll be back on Wednesday. You guys can check him out right now if you want on everybodyhatescleveland.com. And, of course, his stuff also archived on theclevelandfan.com. We're going to take a break. Final break of the day here. We'll be right back. Wow, my music just went away as I was getting ready to roll. I lost my music bed. Yeah, let me try this all again here, man. You guys hearing the foibles live on the radio. We'll be right back. We'll set the stage for the Tribe tonight. Houston Astros. We'll look at the matchups and more. Don't go anywhere. Final segment of the Sports Fix coming up next. We'll be right back.
The Sports Fix. If you want to be my lover.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing. What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix. Final few minutes of the show. J-Rocc back with you. Thanks for being with us here, and as always, and you know what? Matter of fact, I forgot. I should have said this at the beginning of the show, but I didn't even announce the schedule of the week. Not in live tomorrow. As a matter of fact, Tuesdays for the remainder of the month of July. Now, as we pick things back up into the fall, obviously the schedule will normalize out a little bit, but Tuesdays, the remainder of this month, we'll be out of studio, and a couple of Thursdays here as well. But I'll let you guys know from week to week. Tomorrow, no live show. We'll be back live Wednesday, as we mentioned, with Dan Wismar joining us, and we're going to talk some Indians, Cavs, NBA free agency. We'll get into some Browns and Buckeyes talk as well when Dan Wismar rejoins us here on Wednesday. The Gladiators were off this week for the holiday. They'll get back at it. After 2 weeks, they got a 38 special concert coming at the Q after the game, but we'll talk about that later on this week here and look ahead to the Gladiators. Still looking to get my man Doug Plagans back on the show after he finishes up his baseball trip here he does every year, but we'll talk some Glads with you guys in the future. But coming out of the weekend, good conversation today with Dan. Again, no live Sports Fix tomorrow. You guys enjoy your Tuesday. We'll be back here on Wednesday. In the meantime, couple of things from over the weekend. Jason Pierre-Paul, did you guys hear about that? Talk about 4th of July. Not a good story at all. Apparently a fireworks accident, had some injuries to his hand. Some fireworks have blown off in his hand perhaps. Severe burns on the palm of a hand and the tip of 3 fingers. And and one finger apparently damaged severely with nerve damage. Didn't have any amputations take place, and there was no permanent damage, but definitely a serious situation there, and just speaks to the dangerousness there that has to do anytime your hand. Did you guys hear about the guy? Well, you know what? When you're an idiot, you're an idiot. Sorry to talk bad about the dead. The idiot over the weekend who decided to put a mortar box on top of his head and launch fireworks died instantly when it exploded and blew his brain up. What a dummy. I'm sorry, again, not trying to talk ill about the dead, but if you thought placing a mortar box on top of your head and lighting off fireworks was a good idea, I'm sorry, but you may have deserved to get what happened to you. And I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but come on. That's clearly where alcohol and stupidity mix and create bad results. But that was just something I heard over the weekend. Jason Pierre-Paul injured, different story. We'll get more and update you on that when we hear about it. Tonight, the Indians and the Astros kicking off a 4-game set at Progressive Field. Dallas Keuchel, one of the best names in baseball, takes the mound. 10-3 on the season, 2.03 ERA. Taking on Carlos Cookie Carrasco, fresh off that near miss last time out there for the no-no. Will he get it tonight? He's 10-6 with a 3.8 ERA for the Indians. That game at 7:10 tonight. Of course, tomorrow, as we mentioned, the Indians and the Astros, Game 2. Vincent Velasquez and Corey Kluber. Then we'll be back here on Wednesday with Dan Wismar and you guys to talk about all of that and then some. Enjoy the night. Enjoy the Tribe for the next couple of days. Enjoy the beautiful weather. And then get back here with us, guys. Wednesday, same bad time, same bad channel, live at noon, right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Go Tribe. Go Cavs. Go do something. Whatever you do, we're going to talk about it on Wednesday. Go Browns, Buckeyes. Go Cleveland and beyond, as we say. We'll see you back here Wednesday talking about it all live here on the Sports Fix.
We don't see the sun rays much, still about the paper. Gotta make sure the lights on. Just a mistake on the lake to you, but this is my own. Tatted it on my arm, that I represent that. Homie, I'm from Cleveland, I will tell the president that. Hardest, yeah, we been there. Made some of the greats here. Midwest best, this is MGK's, yeah. Shouts out to St. Clair, uptown, yes, y'all. Heading to the flex, get it popping up with Steph Flaws. Old State Monster, this the home of King James. We are not the empire, but this is where the kings play. Cleveland.
We rep our city. Blue lights separate the grind from the gritty. We're sick fitted. Hood pass cover any city that we